I'm 81 years old, and before I die, there's something I need to say. It isn't a secret exactly, not the kind you whisper, not the kind that ruins families. It's quieter than that. But it has been sitting inside me for years now, growing heavier with time. And lately, time feels very thin. The doctor doesn't speak in certainties, but he doesn't have to. At my age, the body begins closing its doors one by one. You notice it in small ways first. How long it takes to stand, how carefully you step off a curb, how every winter feels like a negotiation. I'm not afraid of dying the way I thought I would be. What unsettles me is what follows right before it. The sorting through things, the remembering. You see your life more clearly from this end, not brighter, just clearer. And when I look back, there is one truth that returns again and again. I thought I had more time. I believed it so completely that I never questioned it. When you're young, time doesn't feel like something that can run out. It feels more like a road that keeps building itself ahead of you. There is always another year, another summer, another chance to call, to visit, to sit down and listen properly. You don't think of your life as something that can quietly close. I was born in 1944, just as the war was ending. My earliest memories are soft ones. My mother hanging laundry that snapped in the cold air. My father coming home tired but steady. The smell of soup that seemed to be cooking every evening of my childhood. We weren't unhappy people. We were ordinary, which at the time felt like a blessing. My father used to say, "If you work hard and keep your word, life will take care of you." I believed him. By my 20s, I had a job at a small manufacturing company. Nothing glamorous. Steel parts mostly. The work was repetitive, but there was comfort in knowing exactly what was expected of you. I met Helen when I was 26. She had a laugh that made people turn their heads, not because it was loud, it wasn't, but because it was genuine, the kind of laugh that arrived without permission. We married within a year. Looking back, I don't remember proposing in any grand way. I asked her while we were washing dishes at her apartment. My hands were wet. There was soap between my fingers. She smiled and said, "I was wondering how long you were going to wait." We built our life the way most people did back then, slowly, practically. A small house with thin walls, second-hand furniture, a kitchen table that wobbled unless you folded a piece of cardboard under one leg. I told myself I would upgrade things later. Later became a very important word in my life. When our son Daniel was born, I remember holding him and feeling something close to terror. Not because I didn't love him, but because suddenly everything mattered more. I wanted to be dependable, so I worked. Overtime whenever it was offered. Weekend shifts, extra responsibilities no one asked me to take but that I accepted anyway. Because that's what a good man did, or so I believed. Helen never complained, not once in those early years. But sometimes when I came home late, I'd find her asleep on the couch with the television still glowing blue across the room. Dinner covered with foil, a note that said, "Warm this when you get in." I would stand there for a moment, looking at her, and think, tomorrow I'll come home earlier. Tomorrow had a way of rearranging itself. There was always another bill, another promotion to chase, another reason to stay just a little longer at the office. I told myself I was doing it for them, and in some ways I was. But here is something I did not understand then. Providing for someone is not the same as being with them. The distance doesn't arrive all at once. It seeps in quietly. One evening, Daniel asked if I would come watch him play baseball. He must have been 8. "Saturday at 10, he said, handing me a folded schedule like it was something fragile. I promised I'd be there. That morning, the phone rang. A machine had broken down at work. They needed supervisors on site. I remember hesitating, truly hesitating. I even pictured the field, children in oversized uniforms, the smell of cut grass. Then I looked at the clock. If I go in for a few hours, I thought, I can still make it to the next game. I didn't. When I got home, his glove was on the kitchen table. Helen said the team had won. He kept looking toward the parking lot, she added gently. I told myself there would be dozens of games. There were. I missed most of them. Life continued like that, not dramatically wrong, just slightly misaligned. Promotions came. We moved to a better neighborhood, bought sturdier furniture, took exactly one real vacation, which I spent answering calls from the office. Years passed without announcing themselves. Then, one autumn afternoon, my mother called. Her voice sounded smaller somehow. "Your father fell," she said. The hospital smelled sharply clean, the way hospitals do when they are trying to hide something. He looked older than I remembered, fragile in a way that startled me. We spoke about nothing important, the weather, a neighbor's new fence. Before I left, he said, "Don't work too hard." I smiled, told him I had everything under control. He died 3 months later. Heart, they said. It wasn't sudden, exactly, but it felt that way because I had assumed there would be more visits, more conversations, more chances to ask the questions adult sons always think they'll get around to someday. After the funeral, I found a box in their closet filled with things I had made as a child. Crooked drawings, school papers, a clay bowl that leaned badly to one side. He had kept all of it. I realized then how carefully parents hold on to the smallest pieces of you. For a few weeks, I went home earlier, sat with Helen after dinner, called my mother every Sunday. But habits are strong things, stronger than realization sometimes. Work tightened its grip again, years blurred. Daniel grew tall, his voice deepened. He stopped asking me to come to things. Teenagers do that naturally, people say. Maybe, but I suspect he had learned not to expect me. Helen and I became efficient partners, managing schedules, discussing repairs, coordinating holidays. We rarely fought, but we rarely lingered either. One night, she said quietly, "Do you ever notice how silent the house is?" I answered, with something practical about insulation. She didn't press. The turning point came on a Tuesday. Ordinary, rain tapping the windows. I arrived home to find her sitting at the table with both hands wrapped around a mug she wasn't drinking from. "The doctor found something," she said. Cancer is a word that rearranges the air in a room. The months that followed were not cinematic. No dramatic speeches, mostly waiting rooms, forms, careful drives home. I told work I needed time. To their credit, they gave it. But as I sat beside her during treatments, a terrible understanding began forming inside me. I did not know her daily thoughts anymore. I knew her preferences, how she took her tea, which blanket she liked, but not the landscape of her inner life. Somewhere along the years, I had learned how to maintain our life without fully inhabiting it. One evening in the hospital, she said, "We were always about to start living, weren't we?" I didn't know how to answer. She died in early spring. The house changed shape after that, though the walls stayed put. Silence is different when there is no one left who is supposed to break it. I retired the following year. People congratulated me. "What will you do with all your free time?" they asked. I didn't know. Free time is only a gift if there is someone to share it with. Daniel visited, but his life was elsewhere. Another state, children of his own, responsibilities I recognized because I had once chosen them over everything else. We were polite with each other, kind even, but there were long pauses in our conversations, filled with things neither of us quite knew how to recover. One afternoon, my granddaughter asked, "What was Grandma like when she was young?" I opened my mouth and realized I had forgotten the texture of her laughter. Not completely, but enough that I could not recreate it on demand. That frightened me more than death has ever managed to. Memory is not permanent. It fades at the edges first. Now my days are simple. I wake early because old bodies do that. Make coffee for one. Sit by the window. Sometimes I walk to the park and watch people hurry past. Everyone looks so certain they are late for something important. I want to stop them gently and say, "Be careful with your hours." But of course, you can't live other people's lives for them. So this is what I need to say before I run out of mornings. There is no later waiting for you. Later is a story we tell ourselves so we can postpone what feels inconvenient today. Call later, visit later, rest later, forgive later, listen later. And then one day you look around and discover that later has quietly expired. If I could sit across from the younger version of myself, I wouldn't lecture him. He was trying. He believed responsibility meant endurance. But I would tell him this: being present is also a responsibility. Success is not a poor thing. It feeds families, builds safety. But it is a terrible companion if it asks for every hour you have. I missed ordinary Tuesdays that I would give anything to relive now. I postponed conversations that will never happen. I assumed the people I loved understood my love without needing to feel it daily. Love, it turns out, needs witnesses. You cannot store it up like money. I don't blame myself the way people imagine regret must feel. It's quieter than blame, more like standing in a room after the music has stopped, realizing how beautiful it was and how little you listened while it played. If you are hearing me now, wherever you are, however old you are, I am not asking you to change your life overnight. Just notice it. Notice the people who sit across from you. Notice how many chances you're given to pause. Do not treat those chances as endless. If this meant something to you, if it stirred even a small thought, perhaps speak to someone you've been meaning to speak to. Not because an old man told you to, but because someday you may wish you had. As for me, I am tired more often now. There is a chair by the window where the afternoon light settles, and sometimes I sit there and feel almost peaceful. I have known love. That is no small thing. I have been forgiven more than I deserved, and even with all the hours I mishandled, this was still my life, imperfect, ordinary, real. Death doesn't feel like an enemy anymore, more like a closing door at the end of a very long hallway. I only wanted, before I reached it, to leave this behind. Do not assume you have more time. Sit a little longer at the table, go to the game, hold their hand when you pass in the kitchen, answer the phone, say the thing. One day, without warning, the house will grow quiet, and you will understand, as I do now, that what mattered was never waiting in the future. It was already there, asking gently for your attention. I'm 81 years old. I can feel my days folding in. But tonight, the window is open just enough to let the cool air move through the room, and for a moment, everything is very still. I think that is enough. Thank you for listening to an old man. Take care of your time.